Sundays are fun days, especially when Cricbuzz Live is on your mobile phone screens. It's going to be even more fun today because it's also the coming together of two people for the first time in this very studio. The very colorful Mr. Dinesh Karthik and the Silver Fox, Mr. Joy Bhattacharjya.
Silver Fox, that's quite a impressive start, I must say.
हम लोग कुंभ मेला में बिछड़ गए थे 20 साल पहले. Unfortunately, तब मोबाइल फोन का कनेक्शन अच्छा नहीं था, नहीं तो इसके पहले मिल लेते.
Manmohan Desai, where are you? We need to make a movie on this. But you know, Dinesh Karthik is always in Zen mode. I've never seen him angry. And the man to his left has just had some soul curry. So we're going to have a lot of soul-stirring conversations. We'll start with Dinesh Karthik actually, since Bangladesh are in action against Afghanistan for the first time in this Asia Cup. Bangladesh are in a bit of a tricky spot, which they were in a few months ago when Mr. Karthik gave Soumya Sarkar a scar that he shall never recover from. Is that memory still fresh? I'm sure it is. I'm sure you get tweets every day, people telling you how great that moment was.
You're always remembered as a cricketer for certain knocks, for certain things you've done on the field. I think my biggest takeaway from cricket, at least from a public perspective, would be what I did on that night against Bangladesh. There's a lot of backstory to it. The Nazmul Hussain and the snake dance and all of that. And then it just culminated into a lovely curtain-ending finale because soon after that was IPL. So it was pretty much the last game for the international season. And we had a young team led by Rohit Sharma, a lot of new players. Siraj was new, Jaydev Unadkat had just come into the T20 team, plenty of young. Washington Sundar was a man of the series actually, he was a young boy. And one of those days when things just happened my way and I was very, very lucky. But what I would definitely say is I would thank the people for showing so much love and support over the years because it's become a day where they remember it every time it comes on the calendar. They're like, DK played this knock, and it always obviously puts a smile on your face, and to have been part of it was wonderful.
240 million views of that video on YouTube. I've been told it's the highest watched, the most watched cricket video on YouTube. 240 million!
Okay, I'll ask you a question since you asked him about that and said most watched video, 240 million. Do you know what is the second most watched video ever, cricket video ever on YouTube?
Same match? Something from the same match?
Bit more?
I don't know. Just guessing.
If you said that the 20th over was like crazy this thing, what would you choose as the second biggest?
I don't know the answer to this question.
The answer is?
The 19th over.
The 19th over by Rebel which went for 22 runs. That's actually where the game changed.
Wow.
I mean, India came close. Before that, we were out of it.
Yeah. Look, at that stage, 38 of 2 overs was unheard of. Nobody had scored so much ever. And to have taken it down that deep is good. And a few days ago, interestingly, I got the tweet. It's not the most watched cricket sports video. It is the most watched sports video ever, apparently. We have to fact check it. But look, we Indians are there everywhere, every part of the globe. And I'm sure Chandrayaan landed in the moon. They might find somebody there from India as well. So we have big numbers, and I think they've been very, as I said, very, very heartwarming to see these numbers come out for a cricket video.
Maybe we'll have another video on the 19th of November this year. Who knows? That video might trump this one. For now, let's stay focused on Bangladesh versus Afghanistan. Bangladesh have won the toss and they've chosen to bat first. It's a Lahore pitch. They know it's a must-win. DK, good toss to win?
Good toss to win. Lahore pitch is very good for batting. If you do look at the points table, you can see that Bangladesh is in a do-or-die game. And to get the opportunity to bat first and put pressure on the opposition is always good in big games. Things didn't exactly go to plan the last game against Sri Lanka. But here is another chance for you to amend what you did a few days ago. They really didn't turn up, did they, for that game, Joy, if you just watch it?
Absolutely. Absolutely didn't turn up. And I think once that middle order didn't get going at all, then there was just so little out there. And after that, you can't blame the bowlers because today these 160s, 170s are no longer totals that you can look at seriously.
Also, change in venue is going to play a massive part. Palakili was very much in favour of the bowlers. To seaming around a lot, definitely not Bangladesh's strength. And for that matter, even India's faltered at the start against Pakistan on a similar pitch, which had a bit of seam and bounce in it. Lahore pitch, I promise you, is an absolute deathbed for bowlers. So if Bangladesh get off to a good start, they can post a very, very challenging total.
And on the other hand, well, Afghanistan's strengths are their spin bowlers. We'll talk about them a lot more in detail. But Bangladesh, it's good, right? When you know that you win and you go through possibly, or if you lose, you go back home. So there's complete clarity of the scenario there in front of them.
For Bangladesh actually to have this, keep this completely in their hands, they need to win and win really big. They need to win and win really big, because the problem here is essentially that 0.951 is a huge margin. You know, they chased it down the 40th over, which you predicted, and they ended up doing it. That means that or they have to just win and hope that, you know, the job is done for them by Sri Lanka.
Yep.
I mean, that's not keeping it in their hands. They can do that. But they try and get as big a win as possible. If they don't, if they see that it's going to be dicey trying to go for a big win, then they'll just say, let's win it. Let's not get complicated about run rates and all. And if they lose, they lose. I mean, there's no way about ensuring anything else in the last.
Typically, fans across Asia, the subcontinent, or the world look at teams at multi-teamed events, or we look at players from other teams at the IPL. And so it's very difficult to have a balanced perspective on what's happening with these teams. Afghanistan have had a lot of near misses at multi-team events. Joy, what could be the reason? Is it that they are, especially in one-day cricket, is it that they haven't really fully embraced the ODI format? Even at the T20 World Cup, they struggled.
No, look, I think they've been remarkably good. I mean, think about, you know, Bangladesh, we think about New Zealand. Bangladesh has been playing Test cricket for 23 years. You know, you look at what these guys have been doing in the 6-7 years that they've really emerged in international cricket. It's very creditable. Even that 5-wicket win that you see, the reason it's there was that they were actually 24 required of 2 overs, and then Asif Ali, I think, hit 4 sixes in Dubai and finished it off. But these are all, what I'm trying to say is that look at it from the other point of view. My point of view is that these guys are really competing. They're almost there. And they're getting across the line, maybe not so often, but they will. The more experience they get in these situations, the more they'll get across the line. But a team of this nature who's competing so hard, I find it, look, I think they're doing really well. I think their roadmap is looking a lot better. I mean, I'm personally disappointed with what Bangladesh has achieved, considering all the hopes and aspirations with which they started.
If one were to say they've underachieved, is it a sign of saying, listen, they aim higher and therefore they may feel they've underperformed?
Afghanistan.
Yep.
In many ways, if you look at the skill sets of players, you have to say Afghanistan has produced more talented players in the short time that they've lasted in international cricket. Just as an example, they have 3 representations in the IPL, 4 in fact representations, Noor Ahmed, Rashid Khan, Mohammad Nabi and Rahmanullah Gurbaz. Whereas with Bangladesh, for the longest time, it's just been Shakib al-Hasan, the lone warrior, along with Mustafizur. There haven't been many others who made the mark in franchisee leagues, and that's a good benchmark because it tells you the caliber of players that they're able to choose from. Now, why Afghanistan is not able to produce match-winning performances is because they don't have a strong domestic structure, unlike Bangladesh, which has a much more steady system in place for some period of time. They've been around for about 26 years now. They play a lot more games and hence it's possible. Whereas in Afghanistan, with all the strife that happens in the country, I think it's very hard to hold domestic cricket, and that's why you see the quality of players in terms of quantum not coming through as much as Bangladesh.
Bangladesh got ODI status much before Afghanistan, and there was a phase when they started to become a very dangerous side. They beat Australia, they beat India at the World Cup as well. Suddenly, they seem to have sort of lost that mojo, haven't they? What could the reason be?
Look, there are 2-3 things. One is that you're seeing one great generation of Bangladesh cricket go out.
Yeah.
Okay, because we were talking about this the last time as well. You say Mushfiqur, Tamim, Shakib, you know, Mashrafe was there, Mashrafe is gone, Tamim went out, came back, is injured again, perhaps he'll play the World Cup. But that generation, that 2007 generation is finishing off. And they had a lot to do with it. I mean, they contributed a lot, but they were also theirs. I mean, they were there, okay? And this, you know, what we're talking about, Tawheed it is, right?
Tawheed Hridoy.
Tawheed Hridoy and the 2020 winners of the Under-19 World Cup. They're the new generation. And I think they're somewhere in between. You know what I mean? This is probably the last World Cup those stalwarts will play. And this is a side in transition, I feel. And once that transition is over, I have one more problem with Bangladesh cricket. I feel that their administration puts a lot of pressure on them because their fans are so emotional. Administration wants results immediately. The easiest way to get results immediately at home is to prepare pitches which low, slow and turn. But what happens is then when you go outside, it's not that easy to play. So those are the kind of issues that you grapple with. And every Bangladesh president thinks of it because that job is also a very insecure job. That job changes very fast. So he says, in my turn, okay, I'll prepare fast pitches, but while I'm still there, let's play low and slow and win it this year. Next year we'll see, And I think that's one of the issues.
Next year they're not around.
Next year that guy's not around. Yeah, exactly.
Stability is what the teams like Pakistan and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka need. Now, from Bangladesh's point of view, in 25-year-old Shanto, DK, they found someone who showed more than a glimpse of what he's capable of in that first game.
Najmul Shanto is somebody, for me, I've seen him for a long time. When I went to Bangladesh to play league cricket, club cricket rather, and we played together in the same team. He was a young boy who had done well in under 19, and they knew he had talent. But the talent wasn't translating into performance for some time. But the good thing with Bangladesh, very uncanny of them actually, to hold on to him for some point of time. As you could see, the stats would present you a story, and there it is in 2023. He's come good. He's always had the skill. He had the technique, and I think they realized that here is a player who could be a long haul horse, and he's showing them in numbers as to what he can do. Even last game under trying conditions, he batted really well. He is a very, very key player for them. Bats at number 3, and he is not somebody who is very attacking in nature, but he can definitely give you that anchor role that the team in many ways requires in ODI cricket.
Just a month before the World Cup, teams will want to tick a few boxes, individuals as well, regardless of what happens in this game. If Shanto scores runs again, that augurs really well for him and his team for the World Cup.
Absolutely. And if Shanto can play steadily, then Shakib can attack a bit more around him.
Yeah.
Right now, what's happening is Shakib is worried that if nobody else holds on to the anchor role, now that he doesn't have a lot of his old players out there, Litton is a huge miss for Bangladesh right now. He's probably their best player right now, this best batter right now. So his not being there, it's important for Shanto. Shanto will allow the others to play a bit more freely, and I think that's very important for them.
Also, they have Tanzit, who's an opener, who's somebody who's very aggressive, has done well. If you do look at the Bangladesh team right now, and Joy rightly pointed it out, it is a team in transition, and a lot of these players from under 19 have done really well in Emerging Cup, and that's why they've been picked for this series. That's why you see a few names with lesser matches, because these are guys who they earmarked as potential talent, and they're giving them the opportunities now.
Have Bangladesh made any changes? Let's take a look at their playing 11 for this must-win game that will be played in Lahore. Yes, we do see changes. 3 of them, in fact. I do not see Mustafizur there at all.
So Tanzit they've dropped, which is a tragedy because he got just one chance, really. And he got out to Shanshaw Afridi, which is not exactly... I mean, if that is the reason for being dropped, there are many people who would be in that list. Obviously, Mustafizur must be holding a niggle, must be having a niggle. So that's why he's gone. And that's why they have Hassan Mahmood probably replacing him. But
one of the Mehdi Hassan's gone.
Mehdi Hassan is gone and Afif has replaced him.
Yeah, so Mehdi was actually bowled his full quota of 10 overs. Mehdi Hassan, the off spinner, along with Mehdi Hassan Miraz. There are 2 Mehdis in Bangladesh team. He did a decent job with the ball, but I think they're looking at more batting stability, hence have gone for Afif Hussain. Afif Hussain, again, a very interesting story. He's done well in T20 cricket, but a typical T20 cricketer was not able to translate it into ODI cricket. He's been up and down, but again, another case in point where they look at him and say, you know what, this guy's got talent, and that's why they're backing him.
Yep, 23-year-old Shamim Hussain comes in as well. Batting all-rounder, left-handed bat. Right arm off break. So clearly it's not just about winning tonight, but also looking at the World Cup ahead, saying, listen, let's try them now. If not now, then when?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I have no problem with Shamim coming in. Now, my problem is only that Tanzit, you can't give a batter 1 innings against an attack like Pakistan and say that, you get dropped immediately, because that's really playing with his head. But obviously at this point in time, I think Hathura Sundar, who's their coach, is saying that, we need a big win now. Yeah. We need to do it. And I'm thinking less about what's happening to this kid. We need to really, really push this victory through, because, this is before the World Cup. They don't want to go back immediately. They want to at least win, keep themselves in contention, and then worst case scenario, hope that, Sri Lanka does the job.
Let's take a look at that Bangladesh lineup once again and get our experts to talk about the kind of role they'd like to see Shakib Al Hasan in. He came in at number 4 in that first game, couldn't do much, got out. What's the role for him? Does he hold himself back, add some solidity to the lower middle order, or take that challenge head on and say, listen, I'm going to come in at 4?
The previous World Cup in 2019, he was an absolute revelation batting at number 3, where he got a few hundreds and really was the backbone of that Bangladesh team. Now for me, when I see that, what is interesting is Shanta, who batted at 3 and got runs, now has to open because they don't have a full-time opener there.
Yeah.
Shamim is obviously middle order, and so is Afif Hussain. So now everybody goes a spot up because they wanted to get rid. Now if Litton Das comes, who is going to sit out? Is it going to be Mohammad Naeem, or is it going to be Shamim, or one of those? So there's a bit of a musical chair going around. I think Shakib is obviously either 3 or 4 because they have Mushfiqur in the middle, who they trust a lot of. At this point of time, it will be Shakib Al Hassan's role to go out there and play the new ball and then find a way to bat through the middle overs as much as he can. At the death, they have players, but through the middle, they'll need experience. They have Mushfiqur and Shakib to do it. But there is a bit of musical chairs going very, very close to the World Cup, which is very interesting.
The middle order collapse has been a huge issue for Bangladesh in the last 6 matches. And these numbers will tell you a story. You will need someone to hang around and hold that middle order together.
I think that's why they're playing Afif as well. Because they need to win, they need to bat more aggressively up front. So go with somebody who's a more competent bowler. And I think that's what you're looking at again. See, what would worry Bangladesh more than anything else, if you look at that, is the size of the defeats. One is losing. Losing is not such a big thing. But we were just talking about Afghanistan, the losses. Look at that. 142 runs, 132 runs, 227 runs. These are huge, huge losses. They were not competitive at all in these matches. Similarly, even the last match that they lost by 5 wickets, they were not really competitive. Let's face it, they were not in the game. They got 3 early wickets. They were 43 for 3 Sri Lanka. But after that, they reached 121. After that, it didn't matter. So my point is that of those matches you've looked at, there are 4 matches they were not in the game at all. And that is something that will really worry them. You lose not getting across the line, it happens. But being blown away, Bangladesh is too senior a side for that to happen to them that often.
What about the challengers, Afghanistan? This is their first Asia Cup game in this campaign, and this is the 11 they have gone in with. They will be bowling first, remember. So let's take a look at the right side of this graphic. DK, what do you make of this bowling group?
Very, very spin dominant and solid, must say. How much of a role is the fast bowlers going to play? Because they just have the 2 all-rounders, Gulabdin and Kareem. They haven't gone for a full-time fast bowler apart from Fazal Farooqi. So you have plenty of options to choose from in terms of spinners. It is a clear Afghanistan team which has been their template. We depend on our spinners to give us the breakthroughs. Fazal Farooqi up top to swing the ball. But other than that, it's going to be spinners all the way.
Mujib and Rashid are a scary duo, aren't they? Regardless of where they are playing, what the pitch is, who the opposition is, these two are an absolute handful.
All of them. And they could have played Noor, who's also an absolute handful. The truth of it is, I feel Mujib is going to bowl early. I feel that, with Fazal Farooqi, maybe you'll get Karim Jannat or one of the Gulbadim to bowl a few overs. But expect Mujib to bowl very early in that first power play. Because he does that really well.
Absolutely. I'd completely agree. I think he'll bowl the second over of the match. That's how they're going. They're looking at it as a wicket-taking option. They aren't looking as a defensive option. They're looking at Mujib, who can pick us wickets with the new ball. And then we bring either Kareem or Gulabdin Naib a little later in the power play, maybe around the 8th or 9th over.
Terrific economy as well with white ball, regardless of the format. T20s, ODIs, great economy, these players.
Absolutely. They're the number 1 in terms of economies across the board in the world, which is unbelievable, because you got to understand, unlike other teams, Afghanistan hardly plays a match at home. Every game is an away game, and for the spinners to dominate and put in a performance like that is outstanding. Because if you take Bangladesh as a number 2, it is a bit skewed in the sense that they play a lot in Bangladesh, where they're very accustomed to their conditions. Absolutely. But Afghanistan doing what they have done with their spinners tells you a lot about the caliber of bowlers that they have in their arsenal when it comes to spin, and why they get hit at the back end of the innings, because they don't have that quality with the death bowlers, because they're dependent so much on the spinners. That is their biggest worry, because when these games go deep, that's when they get found out a lot, even against Pakistan in the recent past.
Exactly what you were saying, and that's maybe what the numbers are also showing, those matches, the close matches that they lost. Because the one other thing is, Fazal Haq Farooqi is also not by nature a death overs bowler. Yep. He's an up-front bowler. So even if you see how Sunrisers use him, they use him up-front. They don't like using him in there. Which means your top fast bowler is not a death bowler. Okay. Who is going to bowl at the death for you?
Yeah. Evolving. I suppose that ODI culture is evolving. But, when we see the Rashid Khan in action at the IPL, he often tends to turn it into a 16-over game. Because it's 4 overs, you can't get any runs. When you have this quality of bowling in an ODI game, can they have the same impact over a 10-over period? Just for our fans to understand the difference between 2 formats. Same bowler, same kind of ball. What's the difference, if at all?
The mindset of the batters, mainly because they're not looking for boundaries in ODI cricket. They can just keep taking singles, and that's why you'll always see Rashid Khan between the 35 to 55 mark consistently, because they're not looking to take him on. They know that he's a potent weapon, so try and just play him off by taking singles, and hence they don't take as many risks as they would in a T20 game. And that's why Rashid Khan has been effective to pick those 1 or 2 wickets, but in terms of making a match-winning performance, a lot of the times it is not that easy for him, because they're just looking to play him defensively in terms of rotating strike. And you got to understand, when you have 5 fielders inside the circle, it's a massive challenge. It just feels the one added fielder, but it brings in a massive difference. When you bring in deep mid-wicket into the field, your chances of bowling a short ball becomes a lot lesser. To tighten your length up, you have to be extremely accurate, and hence he also is slightly defensive, not wanting to give that boundary away easily. So it's a mindset thing. When you in T20 you have that extra fielder where he bowls predominantly through the middle, there's an extra fielder in. So he is thinking differently, so is the batter. So it's a bit of a battle of cat and mouse, but at this point of time the batters are playing it safe and saying, you know what, let's take Rashid Khan down with singles as much as possible.
You know, Joy Bhattacharjya is the man that introduced fantasy cricket to our country with a game a few years ago. Now, when values are assigned to a player, how would you look at assigning a certain value to Rashid? Whether it's T20s or ODIs, would you look at him differently with these two formats?
I would. And I go exactly with what he says. Not only that, you know, we talked about Muralidharan being this great and, you know, Rashid having great value. If you look at it in real terms, Rashid can never be as effective in a test match as he can be in this kind of format. Because what is it? He has very narrow variations, incredible accuracy, incredible speed. But the way he does it, you have to attack him. The batsman must want to score runs against him for him to take wickets consistently. Yeah. It's not that he can't take wickets. Of course, he's a very good bowler. But it's not that he can bowl absolute jaffas at you all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so that is the difference out there. I mean, Rashid Khan is a great T20 bowler, one of the greats in the history of the game. Okay, he's a very decent, you know, ODI bowler. As a test bowler, I mean, there's so much more he can do. Of course, they play such few tests. I mean, how many tests do they play really? You know, and so that's what I'd say. I'd say in T20 he's a great. He, Sunil Narine, they're greats of the game. You know.
Let's add another layer to this conversation. We've got an hashtag Ask Cricbuzz live question on Rashid Khan. It's a tricky one, but it's a fair question, I suppose. Raj Patil wants to know if it's fair to say that Rashid Khan belongs to the same league as a Shane Warne and a Muthaiya Muralidharan. I've been taught that longevity is greatness. Rashid Khan still sort of in the middle of his career, right?
It's not about longevity in this question. I think it's about format distinction.
Okay.
I think Muralidharan and Shane Warne are known for what they've done in the test arena, not so much the ODI cricket. Okay. Whereas Rashid Khan is known out and out for what he has done in T20 cricket. I would go on to say that in many ways it's unfair to put up a stat like this because you're mixing all formats. But for me, Shane Warne...
This is only ODIs.
This is only ODIs. Then in that case, I would obviously, Rashid Khan stacks up with some of the best, if not the best. But what is interesting is the kind of countries that are in Afghanistan have played ODI cricket against for a long time has been associate nations. So if you stack it up against a Sakleen or a Muthaiya Muralidharan, it's not painting the right picture for me. He is still a potent weapon. He's a very good bowler. But for me, Shane Warne and Muralidharan will always hold a special place in my heart because what they have done in the 5-day format, the toughest of the 3 formats by a distance, is what makes them so special.
Unfair to compare stars across eras?
Obviously, fans love to do it, but it's really unfair because also so many things depend on where you're playing, how you're playing. I mean, what conditions are you playing? If you're playing a lot of your matches, for example, you know, Bangladesh, the stat that we saw, Bangladesh 4.3, one of the reasons is they're playing so much at home. So in this case, one thing I'd say that the one genuine bowler see, if you see Warne, Muralidharan, they haven't played too much T20 cricket at all. But if you see them, I mean, they played mostly only in the IPL. If you see them as ODI players and players out there, they were great test bowlers and decent ODI bowlers. A great ODI bowler who wasn't that good a test bowler perhaps was Sakleen Mushtaq, who actually became so good at ODIs but then got his dusra going so well that his straight one couldn't go. Retired at 29.
He was a death bowler actually. He was bowling 48, 50, 46. These are the kind of overs he was bowling.
Yeah. Retired at 29 and incredible. His stat is the most incredible stat of all the spinners you'd see. But that's the thing. Sakleen was never a great test bowler in that sense. And these guys, their greatness is they were great across all formats. And when Murli and Vaughan played T20 cricket, the little that they played at the end of the careers, they did very well as well.
I think you rightly put it, Manish. I think it's a very wrong comparison. It just doesn't make sense. What somebody's achieved in Test cricket is great. Like Shane Warne, Muralidharan are outstanding and legends forever in Test cricket. Similarly, Rashid Khan will go on to become one of the greatest T20 players ever to have graced the game. And there's no point comparing apples and oranges at this point of time when it comes to skill.
Is the amount of cricket that's played now a factor as well?
Amount of cricket,
because it's playing so much all across the world.
They choose to play it, so I don't think it should be taken as a as a hindrance in any way to judge a player, isn't it? Because they choose to play a lot of the leagues that they want to go to. They can always say no to it.
Is it unfair? Was it easier to perform better in that era?
Can I tell you one thing? When Indian team, somebody told me, and in the 80s and 90s, they didn't have any IPL or leagues. So, moment the Indian team, they used to say, every time the Indian team wants a rest, okay, you give them a rest, they go and play festival matches. In those days, there used to be celebrity matches and festival matches and all. So that's the truth. I mean, cricketers, if they're fit, they want to play. And as he said, it's a product of how much they want to play. Of course, they can take a rest. But if today you're a young cricketer who has 5 leagues in the world you can play, you can say that in the next 5 years, I'll make enough money for me not to have to bother about anything for the rest of my life. Those are securities that are afforded, and they have to look at it from their point of view, their families, how they are structuring their lives.
But I'll tell you this. Let's take an example of Rashid Khan. He is the most consummate professional you can ever see. Coming from a country like Afghanistan, but learning the tricks of the trade, playing global leagues around the world. He works hard. He trains like a maniac and eats in the most professional way possible and is so good with his work ethics that those are the things that young kids should look at and marvel at, because he is so good at maintaining his physique and maintaining everything that is required to bring out his skill every day.
And the icing on the cake is that he's a really, really nice guy. Often that aspect of cricketers or celebrities is not talked about as much. He's not going to be nice to the Bangladesh middle order. There's one name in young Tauhid Hridoy who will want to make a name for himself. A young guy, has had a terrific start to his international career as well. What an opportunity this is for him, because this is a quality bowling attack.
No, absolutely. Got a 92 on debut. That 92 knock was on debut, and I think he's a really exciting prospect. He got out, unfortunately, I think he went after Shanaka, and just one of those things that happened just when that partnership was beginning to take off with Shanto. And I think he's really important to them because he brings that, that new energy into it. They'll be hoping that, that energy is there because you now have the experienced guys there. So Shakib is there, Mushfiqur is there. These are the guys who will be expected to push the run rate, push it up, see where it goes.
The one problem that a lot of countries face is they don't know how to handle great talent. When they see a youngster, they get excited, the odd failure here and there, and that player is forgotten. How should world cricket or teams like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka go about making sure they don't lose this kind of talent?
Unlike before, I do believe that talents won't be lost that easily in the near future because of the scouting programs around the world with franchisee leagues. People have started to understand what a certain skill set is, because in their mind they have decided that these are the skill set I'm looking at. It could be as simple as how we play spinners through the middle, how he plays a left arm spinner. It's getting very specific, so we wouldn't lose talent. So what will happen is, even if they fail in a couple of international games or drop from the international team, there'll be some scout looking out saying, this is the kind of guy we need in our league. He does well in that league, and he will immediately get picked back in the countryside. So it is a question that's easily answered because of franchisee cricket around the world. But I think Bangladesh, to a large extent, have been pretty decent in handling their talent. There haven't been so many who have come through because, again, just like what Joy said, their domestic structure is set up a lot to play spin and to bowl spin, whereas the other aspects of be it fast bowling or batting against good fast bowling hasn't been really looked at as of now. And that's why when they travel abroad, they struggle. And in the same breath, I must say, Bangladesh, if they are not in the running to be in the semi-finals of this World Cup, they'd be very disappointed. I'm not saying they should make it, but at least at different points of time in the World Cup, as the semi-final gets closer, people should be talking, saying Bangladesh have a chance. If that doesn't happen, they get, blown away pretty easily at the start, then I think it would be a very disappointing result considering how well they've played in their own country, which is very similar to India.
And the format does allow them enough opportunities to strike back and get their campaign on track if it doesn't start well. Now, very often we rely on our experts to give us a game plan for these teams, but all Bangladesh fans are saying simple game plan, please play the full 50 overs. Somehow.
Absolutely, they have to. I mean, that's something that they would have looked at and said, when they were 6 down, 7 down, they should have played it out. I mean, you cannot. I think they left so many. They have 42.4 overs they were all out in.
Yep.
I mean, leaving 7 overs on the table is just not on. I mean, and that's something that they will definitely look at. And Hathirasinghe is a solid coach that way. He's going to go at them and tell them, you can't do this. And, the kind of pressures that they have, because their fans are among, you see Bangladesh fans everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And, that's the kind of pressure they are under.
It's amazing that he says that he's got such a great knowledge of what happens in world cricket, and I'm not surprised at all, because in the World Cup that just happened in Australia, Joy, India had the most number of fans, and it wasn't Pakistan but Bangladesh who had the most number of fans. Every game they came, we used to play a game after what Bangladesh played day game. There used to be full-on fans.
It's absolutely amazing.
They're big on leaving comments on YouTube videos as well. So
he will know if you have a Bangladesh player on your team, how many comments you get as an IPL team.
He has a special fan club in Bangladesh. Has Soumya Sarkar sent you a friend request? No, we'll talk about that off air, because we've got to go to Joy Factor. Joy, we missed you yesterday. All yours now, sir.
Okay, interesting, because we are talking about spinners and everything. Which Asian cricketer, better known for his 10 international centuries across formats, has 20 of his 110 international victims stumped? It's a very high percentage. So 18.18% of his victims are stumped. To give you a comparative figure, it's 7% for Muralidharan, 8% for Muralidharan. For Subhash Gupta, it's 12-13%. But that higher percentage of stumped is a very rare thing.
So, if we were to deduce this, 10 centuries possibly top order batter, and stumping matlab spinner.
Yeah, stumping matlab spinner, you're definitely...
Okay, we'll try and find out the answer in the next 3.5 hours. You guys go and enjoy the game as well. But before you go, prediction, gentlemen. First innings. Bangladesh batting first.
265.
Mehdi Hassan Miraz is opening. Now you want to change it.
Oh. I'll still stick to 265.
Actually, I'm going to go higher because I think they're desperate. 280.
Okay, Mohammad Naeem, Mehdi Hassan Miraz opening the innings for Bangladesh. A boundary has been hit already. It's looking good. Let's go for 290. Let's have a good game on hand. That's it for now. Make sure you join us at the 15 over mark with Cricbuzz Combox. Enjoy the game. Bye for now.